Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Selah. I'm your host, Ishimwe Vestine. Thank you all for joining and coming in and clicking that link, whatever it is that you clicked from your TV, your phone, your tablet, your Nintendo Switch, whatever it may be. I thank you all for joining and tuning in today. I want to encourage each and every single one of you guys to like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever your heart leads you to do. As I always say, just comment your input, whatever it may be, is all welcome. And I wanted to thank God for this platform before I even get into anything. Just want to thank Him for everything and the ministry that He's doing, not just through me, but all over the world. He's so good. Anyways, I just hope and pray that, the message from today is divided between every single one of you guys, and each person receives something, gets something, is blessed, whatever it may be that comes out of my mouth today. I just wanted to pray and hope that, it reaches and it speaks to somebody, Now, today, I don't want to speak at you guys. I kind of want to, because I think this today's topic is kind of directed not to just you guys, but to me. So I think it's mostly to me. God knew what He was doing. So yeah, it's mostly directed to me. And since I've been feeling that way, especially since preparing for this episode this week, I just want to touch on like how it's impacted me and myself, and yeah, because I've been reading the book of Exodus. If y'all know me, y'all know I hate to read the book of Exodus. I started it. Not let me not say hate. Hate is a strong word. I highly dislike. I highly dislike reading the book of Exodus. Like I think I make it all the way until like chapter 16 and give out. Why? Because I get to reading and I'm watching and reading and witnessing how the Israelites are. And boy, like I get upset for God. Like I get upset for Him. Not in a way of like vengeance is mine type stuff, but I get upset because like wow, how could they? And who do I think they are? But then reflecting on it this week, because I went back and tried to like finish it or at least get past that chapter. Because I think like I tried to read it and get past that chapter. And while reading, I was reflecting and I was like, dang, that's me for real. I'm like, that's me sometimes for real. Like, I gotta be honest, like that be me. That was me yesterday. So like, how can I be mad at them and like be angry for God? Like, though I understand, like I know it has to like anger God or frustrate Him at some point, but I can't even be, But I was reading it and it reminded me of somebody. It reminded me of somebody. And so I just wanted to share my, like, just what I've been reading and yeah, the Israelites in the wilderness. I think it's very, very inspiring in a way because my pastor always says that the best way to learn isn't just experience, because a lot of people say the best way to learn is experience, go through it and you'll learn that, and that's how you grow wisdom or whatever. But he always says that the best way to learn is to listen. So like reading the book of Exodus and watching the Israelites go through all of this and be in the wilderness and walk with God, and then like their attitude on everything, the way they fell back and came and all that stuff, like I feel like for me reading it, at least this time around, I really take it as more of like lessons than judgment, because I feel like whenever I would read it before, what frustrated me was because I think I was looking at it in the lens or a view of like judgment, because it's like, how could you, who do you think you are, right? But reading it back through, I think with as I am older and wiser, because we grown over here. But I think as my mind I've spiritually matured, I look at the story differently than I did when I first read it. So it's good. one thing that really stood out to me while reading Exodus is like how, like, I think for me, right, I usually let my experiences impact my outlook on life. Not just my experiences, but my, you could say, like, relationships with people, fallouts with people, experiences with a certain thing or anything that I've went through. I used, I want to say I used to, but I kind of still do because I'm working on it. We're a work in progress. But I usually let my experiences impact not how I treat people, but my outlook on things, like my state of mind of how I see things, how I look at things, and not always in a bad way, but most of the time in a bad way, most of the time in the bad way. But because of that, I just I see myself in the Israelites. I think in reading this section of Exodus, it kind of like reminds me of that aspect of my character, of my bad habits, the fact that I always let like if somebody makes me mad, like I forgive. Well, I'm working on learning to forgive, because you are, me too. Me too. I'm working on learning how to forgive. And God really highlights that to me every single day. He be chastising me so bad because, like, why you ain't forgive that person? But I find it very, very hard sometimes to forgive people. But when I do forgive, it's even harder to forget. Like, I don't think God expects us to, like, forget whatever happened. Like, never think, like, let it be bygones and let it not be in your mind ever again, but in a way of, like, not holding it against somebody. Me? One thing about me, I can hold a grudge. I don't anymore. Well, I do sometimes. See, I'm a work in progress. I'm working on it. But holding it against somebody is what the forget part means. To, like, forgive them. Once you forgive them, it should no longer hold impact on how you see the person. Well, not how you see the person, but like how you treat them, at least. Because you can forgive somebody and still love them from a distance, which is a healthy way to go about it. But for me, I kind of tend to keep it in my heart and remember it and think I forgave them. So yeah, that's kind of how I used to, and sometimes still do, whenever I'm putting like, God has to come down himself and smack me before I actually just, like, not do it anymore. Because, like, again, I'm human and things really get to me, and because they get to me so bad, they impact me, like, in how I see things and how I look at things, and my outlook. So I tend to, like, build walls around temporary pain. Like, I build permanent walls around temporary pain, something that was meant to last, maybe that time of pain, that time of hurt, and I let it impact everything else, and how I see everything else. My outlook on so many things, they start to change, and they start to be based off of that. And so those permanent walls that I kind of build around myself, they become like like basically walls. Yeah, they become walls, 4 walls around me. And it was all because of a pain, just a temporary pain, because pain doesn't last forever. And so it was clearly based off of a temporary pain, and these walls are now permanent because they're no longer just on pertaining to that specific thing, but to everything else. And I used to think that was just normal and that's just how I am and things like that. But one thing that God really highlighted to me while reading Exodus, and kind of reflecting on that fact, and pondering and kind of reflecting on myself as well, doing some self-reflection, he reminded me that he's supposed to walk us through the wilderness, which means the wilderness is supposed to be temporary. It has an expiration date. He's supposed to walk us through it, which means, like, when you're in the wilderness or desert, whatever you want to call it, whether it's pain, a lesson, a test, a trial, whatever, he's supposed to walk you through it. And through means you're about to get to the other side, right? He holds your hand through it and he walks you through it, which means it's supposed to be temporary. Like you're supposed to sit in the wilderness or get through the wilderness because it has an expiration date. And at this time, you're supposed to see the other side or another side to it, right? But, and like another way I like to think about it is like the wilderness is basically like the in-between of where you were and where you're going. So like where you were, you go through the wilderness and it's kind of like a season of transition, and then where you're going, right? Because like in Exodus, the the Israelites were moving from where they were in captivity and slavery with the Egyptians. And then they were supposed to walk through the wilderness and then get to the promised land, right? And what was meant to be 11 days. And I want to exaggerate on that because I was having this conversation with my friend and I had to say it so many times because I just couldn't believe it. A journey that was meant to be from Egypt to the promised land, and we kind of looked it up on the map because I wanted to see what this distance is supposed to look like. This wilderness they were in for so long, I want to see how long it is, you know? And they were supposed to be on this journey for 11 days. That I can understand because when we looked at it on the map, and I'm really one of those people that just search things up, right? I'm thinking about it. I'm like, they were in the wilderness for 40 years. And I'm like, how does it take 40 years to walk from Egypt to here? I understand they were walking, but like, come on, it don't take 40 years to walk down there. So I'm thinking like, why did it take so long? We look at the map and walking distance from Egypt, the capital city of Egypt, obviously that's probably not the exact location of where they were, but like the capital city of Egypt to Canaan, what is now present day Canaan, or the promised land, takes 7 days. 7 days. Mind you, that's not exactly accurate because that's probably the short route. So if it was supposed to take 11 days according to like biblical history, yeah, they were probably coming from a different part of Egypt. But we looked it up on the map. It's supposed to take so basically 7 to 11 days is supposed to be the journey that they were supposed to be on, guys. I'm exaggerating on this because it shook me. It's supposed to take 11 days to get to the promised land. My guys were in the wilderness for 40 years. 40 good years. The generation that was promised the promised land had kids. They kids had kids and they kids had kids, grew up, had kids, went to college, high school, middle school, more kids. The generation that was promised it probably didn't even see it. They had grandkids and grandkids upon grandkids before they even got to the promised land. But it was only supposed to be an 11-day journey, guys. So why? Why did it take 40 years? Like, I'm like, dang, okay, God is making me reflect on this part of myself, and then he gives me this word from Exodus, and I'm like, God, what you trying to say? Why did it take them 11 years? So I started like pondering on that. And for me, when I was like reflecting on it for myself, right, in my perspective, for me in my life, when I put that onto my life, I feel like our body, like I think all of our bodies as humans, they have a certain natural reaction to pain, right? They have a reaction to pain, especially when the pain is seen, right? So for example, like there was a time when I was a kid, I think I fell off the bike. I fell off the bike when I was back in our old neighborhood, and how do you say it in English? I scraped my knee. I fell and I scraped my knee, but I didn't notice that I scraped my knee. So the pain, like I didn't feel the pain until my brother was like, "You hurt your knee." Then I looked down, I saw that I hurt my knee, and then I started crying. Now I feel the pain. So our body reacts to pain naturally, especially when you see it or when you notice it. If you don't notice it, most of the time you don't feel it. That's how our pain gets lost in our. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, but like when we notice the pain, it's there's a natural reaction that your body has to it. And so for me, or like at the doctor's office when they check your reflexes, right? Your knee's supposed to do something. It's supposed to naturally, react to the little hammer thing they do on your knee. Guys, I'm not a nurse or a doctor, but it has a natural reaction. And so my body, and maybe yours as well, it naturally, right, reacts with walls and a relapse sometimes. Whenever there's pain, or whenever I'm going through something, or whenever something seems too hard, my body reacts with walls and relapse. And relapse in the sense of like falling back into old habits, old things. Like that's usually how my body reacts to it. Of course, Jesus is coming back and changing me and making me a new person. But like my body just naturally used to react that way. And I used to think it was okay because I was like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be, right? And my body just naturally reacted that way. And I was like, okay, it's okay because I'm justified in it because of this pain and that, whatever happened, I'm supposed to feel this way and I'm supposed to react this way because, yeah, right? Or I go back to my throw up because even now, like, right, for me, like I because we're in this process, on this walk of being renewed in the mind and like our outlook on life, right? Now, whenever like I experience pain or I go through something, sometimes, right, it's easier to go back to my throw up because the medicine isn't working fast enough. It's easier for me to go back to my puke because the medicine isn't working fast enough. I just go back to it, to whatever was nasty, intolerable, whatever the case may be. It just seems easier. And I think, like, of course, like in this walk, it's like when you hear promised land, right? Or when you hear eternal life, when you hear milk and honey, when you hear all these sweet, nice things that ring in your ear, you think it's gonna be all sweet dandy and rainbows and candy and Cocoa Puffs, right? But nobody talks about the in between. Nobody talks about that wilderness you're gonna go through. So when you're actually in it, when you're in it looks easier to just go back to what you was doing because that was easier. It just looks easy. It just seems easier because why? It shouldn't be this hard to get some milk and honey, right? When you're in it, it really looks and seems like the grass looks so much greener over there. Like I know the grass is green over there, but it's taking too long, so I just want to go back over there. So that's how, that's how I used to react to it. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just in it, and that causes those relapse. So my body has two reactions to pain or to frustration, impatience. It reacts with walls or relapse, right? And I saw that happening to in Exodus. Like, cause like I said, like for me, it's walls or relapse. And sometimes we take certain moments that broke us or that was meant to break us. We take that, we build a house, and we start decorating. And we live in it. We really live in it. We sit and we live in it, right? And so with the Israelites, right, I noticed that they kept going back to what they were used to Egypt. They kept wanting to go back to Egypt. You know how many times they done told Moses to take them back? Even after God raining down bread, manna, and making rocks spill out water and stuff like that, they talking about this is too hard, take us back to Egypt. But mind you, when they left Egypt, they were so eager. They were ready to fight. They was ready to go, right? They was, oh, yeah, yeah. They felt like they was ready. They was ready for, matter of fact, they was ready for war, right? But I realized in reading that part that just kind of like a revelation that God gave me that not the Israelites, but the wilderness is supposed to test what the promised land requires. It's supposed to test what the promised land requires. It's supposed to see if your faith is strong enough to handle what the promised land is going to bring, what's to come in the promised land. So yeah, we're all geared up because we hear milk and honey and we hear this and we hear that. But once you get to the thick of it, your faith ain't strong enough anymore, is it? You ain't as strong and hype that as you were earlier yesterday. Where are you? No, you're not. Because now you want to go back. It's too hard. It's too much. There's no water. There's no food. There's no milk. There's no there's nothing. It becomes too hard. And that's why they went through the wilderness. And I truly think that the wilderness was really supposed to last a certain period of time. But I think because of our stubbornness, we stay a little too long in what was meant to be temporary instead of thugging it out, using the strength of God and making it to the promised land that he promised us. Because he is faithful to perform. So we know that it's there. It's not like it wavered, like it went anywhere. It's still there. It's just when we're in this moment, in this pain, in the thick of it, this journey is too hard. It's too long. That seems too far. We just left Egypt for real, so we could really just take one day's journey and get back instead of taking 11, right? And I wanted to read Exodus actually, but one thing that I realized for me is that whenever I think or I feel like God is breaking me or God is breaking me down, he is. He actually is. That's exactly what he's doing. If it feels like he's breaking me down, that's exactly what he's doing. Because in 2 Corinthians 12:9, it tells us that God works best in our weakness. God works best in our weakness, which means when you're strong, he ain't gonna work the way he's supposed to. You're in the way. So because he works best in our weakness, if you're too stubborn and for me at least, right? When I'm too stubborn and I'm being too hard-headed, God breaks me down. And I think it makes sense because so when I reflect on my story, like going through basic training in the army, right? They when you first get there, right? You may seem you seem so ready. You like, yeah, I'm ready to take this on. 10 weeks, get me in there and get me out, right? You get there. For me personally, when I got there, I was like, okay, it can't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard, right? I was more so worried about the physical part. I think that's what a lot of people are usually worried about, is the physical part of basic training, right? And so I trained before I left. I was working out like crazy before I left. And then once I got there, the drill sergeant's mission is to break you down mentally and build you back up. And so when I think about God, that verse with God, it reminds me of that process that you go through with basic training. It's meant to break you down because it's meant to break you down because the way you came in is not the way you will be when you become a soldier. Because when you actually become a soldier, it requires so much more. So the way you came in, you didn't come in with what you needed, the tools you needed, the armor you needed to be able to go to war, not literal war, but metaphorically. But you didn't come in with the mentality that you needed to be a soldier. You didn't come in with the physical the requirements that you needed to become a soldier. You may have passed the physical test to get in, but you're not there yet, right? So with the Israelites, they qualified because they were Israelites and they were promised it. But that doesn't automatically give you that promised land. Just like a Christian who was born in a Christian home, you were qualified, but you're not automatically given salvation. You have to walk the walk to get there. And so I feel like I just gave 7 metaphors at once. I don't even know where I'm at. But you have to actually go through the steps, go through the motion to get to the land that was promised to you, right? And for me, I realized that God didn't want me to drag my Egypt into the promised land. He didn't want me to drag my old habits and all these things into the promised land. And I think when I first got into the faith, that's why I realized he would start isolating me from things and start taking things away slowly by slowly and breaking me down. And that's why I say, like, when I feel like he's breaking me down, he actually is. Not in a I hate you way, or not in a whatever way, but in a loving way, because he knows I can't stay the same way I am to get to the promised land. I can't bring Egypt with me. If I want to get to the promised land, I can't take Egypt with me, right? I don't know why I keep putting my hand on here like somebody's mom. But anyways, yeah, so I wanted to read Exodus. I'm going to read Exodus 16, verse 3. Right. Exodus 16, verse 3. I'm telling you, I'm still on 16. I haven't gotten past it. I literally started it and I couldn't pass it again, but I will. By the grace and strength of God, I will get through Exodus chapter 16, I promise, right? Exodus chapter 16, verse 3. It says, "And the children of Israel said to them, 'Oh, that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger.'" You brought us out here to kill us with hunger. Straight hunger. You trying to kill us. You took us out of slavery. English. You took us out of slavery so you can bring us out here to die. It's like that movie Get Out. Like you brought us out here just to kill us. That's basically what the Egyptians said. Or why do I keep saying that? The Israelites said. But for the Israelites, right? As I said, like God showed me that I couldn't bring Egypt with me. I can't want to be in the promised land, but still be mentally living in Egypt and want to bring that along with me. It don't operate that way, right? So the Israelites had to unlearn slavery. They had to unlearn slavery. They had to unlearn pain. They had to unlearn doubt. They had to unlearn idolatry. They had to unlearn everything that they were taught in their slavery times by the Egyptians, because the Egyptians, they clearly drowned in the Red Sea. You can't bring them with you. Neither can you bring their tactics and all those things that you inhabited from them. You can't bring Egypt with you. The slavery was in Egypt for them, like in Exodus 16 verse 3 that we just read, right? Slavery was in Egypt, but to them, it felt like slavery was also in the wilderness. Slavery was also in the promised land. Slavery was everywhere they went. It was there. They were gonna die in Egypt, but it was better to die with the meat full and the bread that was full. Mind you, at this time when they said this, it was because they were hungry and there was no food, right? And they were talking to Aaron and Moses and telling them, like, you should have left us to die where there was meat full and a whole bunch of bread that we can eat until we're full, right? Instead of bringing us out here to die of hunger. So God just took y'all, and this is where my frustration starts. God just took y'all from slavery, bondage, captivity, and he's taking y'all to a promised land of milk and honey, and you worried about bread. But I understand it though, because I'm not judging. It's more so of like, dang, like, and when I look at it in that way, I'm looking at myself in that way as well, because like, dang, Vestine took you out of all that stuff that you was in, and so much more things to bring you to the promised land, eternal life, all, and to promise you that, to give you access to salvation, and you worried about a test that you failed in calculus. You worried about your car getting hit. Somebody scratched my car the other day, and I was so off topic, but somebody scratched my car the other day, and I was so frustrated. I almost cussed. I almost took off. Like, somebody scratched my car, and I was so upset that it almost made me act out of character. So that when I say that, like, it's not just about a test in calculus, but He took me from all of that, but I'm worried about somebody scratching my car, and that's enough to make me act out of character and forget all the things, you know? Anywho, I'm not gonna ramble on that because y'all know how I feel about that, right? But so one thing about the devil, right? And I wanna steer this that way as well because he's real, guys. And the biggest prank that the devil ever played was to make people think he didn't exist. So let's talk about our enemy, right? The devil, he he's he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. We know that, right? But he don't come to kill, steal, and destroy in ways that's visible and evident to the naked eye. It seems like normal stuff. It just seems like regular schmegular good old Wednesday night, right? But one way, and the most effective way that the devil steals from us, right, is by making us hold on so that our hands are too occupied to receive, right? Because your hands are so full with the pain, with the past, with the anger, with the frustration, with the doubt, the emotions. Your hands are so full. He makes you hold on to it, and with a grip too, like strong. He makes you hold on to it so that you don't have occupancy. Is that even a word? You don't have enough space. Your hands are too full for you to grasp or reach out or receive anything at all. When God tries to give you, you can't even open your arms to receive. You can't even open your arms to take what it is that he's giving you or that he has in store for you. You can't even open your hands up and lift them up in worship at all. Let alone worship, let alone receive, right? Because your hands are so full with everything else you don't want to let go. And so the devil will plant like thoughts in your mind and occupy your mind so that you don't have enough space to realize and come to the understanding or realization that God has something more. God has something that he wants to give you. There's something that God is trying to place in your hands, but your hands is too full, right? And that's so I want to read this verse in Exodus, same chapter, because mind you, I ain't left chapter 16 yet. So, Exodus chapter 16, verse 19, it says, "And Moses said, 'Let no one leave any of it till morning.' Notwithstanding, they did not heed Moses, but some of them left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and stank." Some context clues. Mind you, we just read verse 3, where they were pleading and begging for bread and saying, "You should take us back to Egypt." Then God does this miracle where he makes it rain bread. One thing about God, he gonna come extravagant, okay? You asking for bread, he gonna make it rain bread. He ain't gonna just like hide it behind a tree. You gonna look up and it's gonna be a whole bunch of bread, right? So God made it rain bread from the sky somehow, some way, right? And one thing that God instructed Moses and Aaron to tell the people is that they should not keep any of the bread that they received till the next day. They should take enough for the day, eat it for everyone in their household, and don't leave anything like left over or keep anything or try to keep any for yourself or hold on to any of the bread or it will spoil. But they were stubborn again. And they kept some until morning, and it grew worms and it stank. Mind you, no more bread here. I mean, I've kept bread like at my house for more than one day and it didn't spoil. So I'm like, bread don't spoil that fast. But there was a reason why God told them not to hold on to it. Clearly in the morning, it stank and it was no longer good for food, but they kept it anyway, right? And so they kept it. Next morning, it came, worms was all over it, and it stank bad, right? That just brings me back to how the devil really, and that's a very good metaphor or analogy that you can use for how the devil really just makes you hold on to things in order for him to steal what it is that God has for you, right? So because God has because this, thing has happened, you're going through this pain, and this experience has just happened, and it hurt you so bad, or maybe it excited you so bad, or maybe it's a blessing that God gave you. It could be anything, good or bad. You have received it, you have it in your hands. God told you not to hold on to it because I got something better for you, and you held on to it, and the next morning it's spoiled. He tells you not to hold on to it because the next morning it's gonna spoil. But the devil, he tells you it's not gonna spoil, just like he did with Eve. Did God really say it's gonna spoil? But by saying that, you think what you had yesterday was better, like what God is gonna give you tomorrow can't possibly be better than what he gave you yesterday. Right? So you hold on to it, and you're like, yeah, I got good bread today, and I'm gonna have some good bread tomorrow because I held on to it. But that bread isn't gonna last. But the devil makes you hold on to the things that weren't supposed to last in your life. He makes you hold on to Egypt, a temporary season. He makes you hold on to Egypt and hold on to it and hold on to it, that you're too stubborn to make it to the promised land. And now you're stuck in the wilderness for 40 years because your hands were so occupied. God couldn't give you the promised land because you were too occupied with Egypt. Please follow along, because I know what I just said was probably not English, but I hope y'all got it. I hope that made sense. Um, but the 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 way that the Bible explains what it is that I just said is the residue left behind by pain, experiences, hard trauma, whatever the case may be, is called strongholds of the mind, right? Strongholds of the mind. And the devil uses that. Those aren't, they're not just built overnight. They're built brick they're built brick by brick, right? They're built experience after experience, trauma after pain, after heartache, after broken heart, after all of this. They're built brick by brick. And before you know it, you have walls, 4 of them, and a ceiling, right? They're built brick by brick. And these strongholds, they're just basically whatever is left behind from all of that. You may have forgiven, you may have forgotten, you may have exited out of their life or took them out of your life, but somehow, some way, we're still holding on to it, and now we've built a house out of it. Like every brick that we hold on to, it builds up to become a full house. Now, over time, it becomes familiar and comfortable, and it becomes normal, and it becomes normalized for you and in your life. At least for me, like whenever I don't, like it becomes so normalized, I don't even realize that I still hold this grudge towards somebody until God really comes and illuminates it for me. He's like, dang, you really ain't forgave that person. You should probably forgive them. I don't know. But like, until he illuminates it for me, but I don't even realize it. It becomes so familiarized and normalized and comfortable. You're so comfortable in the trauma that you sit in it, and you started decorating. You got a little pillow right there, and a little throw pillow and the throw blanket and all that, right? You done decorated these 4 walls that you've put up, right? And these strongholds that you've put up, right? Even when God takes you out of it, you're still in it. Even when God takes you out of it, just like the Israelites, when God took them out of Egypt, they're still in Egypt. Their only wish when things went wrong is take us back to Egypt because we were sent here to die, right? And one thing that God illuminated for me while reading the scripture was that the way that we're supposed to take down these strongholds, these walls that we build up from trauma and pain, heartache, whatever the case may be, is remembrance. And remembrance leads to worship. Because it becomes so easy for us to forget where God took us from. It becomes so easy to forget how God took us from the slavery, the bondage, the captivity, the beatings, whatever it is that they were, the affliction that they were receiving in Egypt. It just doesn't seem that bad anymore because you're in the process of changing. You're in the process of letting go. And that seems harder than the captivity you were in. And it becomes so hard. It becomes so hard to remember what it is that God took you from. It becomes so hard to remember it. But the best way to take down strongholds, really, God highlighted that. It's like you have to remember where God took you from for you to accept where he's taking you. You have to remember it, because only when you remember what he has done for you, where he has taken you out of, Will you be able to lift your hands and worship? Because when you remember, those strongholds will come down. Those things that you're holding on to, you will let go, and you can accept what it is that he wants to give you, where he wants to take you, the promised land, the milk and honey that he wants to give. Boy, and it's gonna taste so sweet. It's gonna taste so sweet, like never before, because you're not going into it with the baggage and the trauma of Egypt. You're leaving Egypt, and you're taking yourself and your belongings into the promised land. And you're not going to take 40 years to do it. You're not going to take 40 years to do it. You're going to take the time that God had permitted for you to take. Now, it's okay if you take longer than normal people. Of course, it's not going to look like it, right? It's different. We're on this journey, but everybody's journey is different, right? But that walk is still a walk. And you can't walk with baggage. You literally can't walk with baggage. There's a saying in the Bible. I'll find it and I'll put it down below. And it's this verse where it talks about how it's easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. And that really used to be I used to just say that to everybody, but because it was so interesting to me. But a needle's eye, right, is this small door passage that only pedestrians could walk through. There's this big gate, right, for cattle and all this stuff that they go through, but on certain hours it was closed, and so there was only one door that was open. It was called the needle's eye. It was this door passage that only pedestrians could go into. Mind you, small. I'm 5'2". It's probably that small. So anybody that's like 6'5", you tall people, you're gonna have to bend down to get in, right? But imagine a camel trying to fit into a door that a 5'2" girl fits into, right? And God uses that metaphor and says it's easier for that camel to get in than a rich man to get into heaven. And he's not just saying like it's a bad thing to have money and a bad thing to be rich, but he's saying a rich person, right, usually comes with, they have a lot of stuff. They got all these things. They got all whatever, right? They hold on to a lot, right? But with a camel, to get through a needle's eye, you know what a camel will have to do to get through a needle's eye? They will have to take off everything, because camels carry stuff, right? They'll have to take off all the baggage they have on them. One, take off every single baggage, everything that's on their back. One, all the people that they may have been carrying, right? They would have to bend their knees. They would have to bow their heads and squeeze through. 3, I didn't skip 2. But they're going to have to take off baggage, bend their knees, and bow their heads to get through the needle's eye. That's why it's easier. Because usually when you're rich, he's not talking about having money. Rich and maybe in greed, right? Or in pride, or in lack of humility. You're holding on to so much. The treasures of the world is just so much more better than the treasures in heaven. So it would be hard for them to get in. But for a camel, right, though it requires all that for the camel to do to get in, it's easier for them to get in. But we have to remember what the camel had to do to get in. He had to take off his baggage in surrenderance, in sacrifice. He had to bend his knees in humility, and bow his head in humbleness before the Lord for him to get in. And that's the posture that God requires of us. For us to break down the strongholds, for us to let go of all these things and not be like the rich man, we have to remember to let go of the baggage. Bend our knees, get on our knees sometimes. Go to God with the struggles. Go to God with the pain that seems too hard to let go of. Bend our knees, really go to God and bow our heads and remember that we can't do it alone. You have to be humble before God. God, I need your help. And for me, I know it's hard for me because I be thinking I'm all independent and stuff. But we have to remember that we have to admit to God that we can't do it alone. We have to admit to God that we can't do it alone. In in 2 Corinthians 10:3, it says that we can't use the weapons of the flesh to fight this battle, to fight the war that we're fighting with, especially when it comes to strongholds. It's not going to take a sword or a gun to fight against the devil with this. This takes so much more. We have to learn to bring our thoughts to captivity. Learn to bring our thoughts and those things that keep coming back into our memory and like making us feel angry and frustrated all over and over and over again. Bring them back to remembrance. And remember to take it to God. We have to bring it into captivity and take it to God. Like I said, bow your knees, take it to God. We have to remember to bring it into captivity and take it to God. The only way we can win this war against the devil and the thoughts that may be implanted, the strongholds that may be in our lives, the only way we can fight against it is to take it to the person that can fight it for us. Because, baby, I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're not strong enough. You're not strong enough. I know we love to empower ourselves and be like, I'm so strong. Yes, we're strong, but we're not strong enough. Not without God. Not without God. We're not strong enough to handle it. So you take it into captivity and give it to God. That's the power that we have. And it's a strong power too, because the devil don't expect it most times. And the best way that the devil takes away your power is to make you think that you don't have any. The best way that he will take your power, the power that God gave you, is to make you think that you don't have any at all. And so we have to use the power that God gave us to stomp against scorpions and snakes and bring our thoughts when it seems like I can't. It's too hard to forgive. It's too hard to do this. We have to remember to use the power and strength that God gave us to bring them into captivity and give them back to him. He tells us to come before him, all who are heavy laden, and he will give us rest. For his burden is light and his yoke is easy. To bring it to him. He literally requires us, he instructs us to do that. So we have to bring it into captivity and give it to him. And that will be our reasonable service. That will be our service is to bring ourselves as a sacrifice and everything that we come with. That's our service. And us coming to him with all that baggage is part of our worship. Because we remembered, we will bring all of that to him in worship to him, right? But we also use truth, right? We also use truth, and the truth, we know the truth. They say, because a lot of us will live in captivity, but we forget that the one way that God told us that we can get out of captivity is the truth. He says that you will know the truth and the truth shall set you free. But we know the Bible tells us that the truth is Jesus Christ. He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to heaven except through me. Jesus is the truth, right? And we know that Jesus is alive. We believe that Jesus is alive. And so because the truth is alive, until the truth is alive in you and in your life, you will still struggle with it. Until the word of God becomes truth in your life, it becomes alive in your life, it will be hard. It will be very hard to bring thoughts into captivity. The word has to be living. It has to be living. It has to be living for you to even know that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. For you to even know that has to be living daily in your life. Like, it has to be living. It has to be in remembrance. That's another thing you bring to remembrance is God's word. When you know the truth and it's alive and it's living, it will come to remembrance. It will come to remembrance every day that, oh my gosh, I know this is hard, but God gave me strength. I know this is hard, but greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. 1 John 4:4. I know this is hard, but you just bring it back into remembrance. And then you will be able to worship him and capture every single thought that may have you captive, every single thing from Egypt that may still have you in bondage, and bring it to God. And truly bring it to God. Truly bring it to God. Capture it and bring it to God. Boy, I know I talked a lot because y'all know I'm passionate about this Israeli stuff, but just truly, like, this revelation was so personal for me because every single verse, mind y'all, I started in chapter 16. I read from 3 to 19. I haven't even passed it. So like this, and I encourage all of y'all to read Exodus. Even if you get frustrated, keep going. Okay, don't be like me. Don't be like me at all. Okay, but like I really, really appreciate the Israelites. They know that was dead wrong, and I know I'm dead wrong too. But I really appreciate them because with their story and their walk through the wilderness, I learned from it, and God highlights things. That's why He gave me Exodus. That's why He told me to go back to read it. It's probably what happened, but just truly, 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 I really encourage all of us to like examine ourselves, examine what in our lives is something we're holding on to from Egypt. What part of Egypt are we trying to bring into the promised land? What is it that we are holding on to? What is it that we're making familiar and comfortable and holding on to, not allowing God to give us things? What is that we are so occupied with that we're too busy? Because sometimes I'll be saying I'm too busy. We're too busy, we're too full, we're too occupied to open our hands to receive and open our hands to worship. What could that be? As y'all know, that's our Selah pondering question for this episode is what is your Egypt? What is it that you're trying to bring into the promised land that you shouldn't? What is it that you're trying to bring into the promised land? Is it idols? Is it what it is that was comfortable back then? Are you going back to your throw up because, this faith thing ain't working fast enough? And if you are, have you taken it to God yet? Have you taken your Egypt to God so that your 11 days don't become 40 years? God is good all the time. God is good. I thank you guys for coming. Like that was the end of my yap session, y'all. But I thank you guys for coming. I thank all of y'all for clicking. I pray again, like I said in the beginning of this episode, that this message, the word that came straight from Exodus itself, was divided by however many there are of you, and it was divided, and each and every single one of you received something and went away with something. Because truly, I feel like God speaks to everybody differently, and He will touch each of you differently. And I pray that it has touched you guys like it touched me, because as we can see, it sure did. So I thank you guys for coming. And again, I encourage you guys to like, comment, subscribe, comment. If you feel comfortable enough, comment and write down an encouragement or anything that you would like to share. Like, and turn on that ringer. As I say, why not? Why wouldn't you, right? Turn on that ringer so you are notified when new episodes comes out, and subscribe so that you're aware of all the other episodes, and you can always go back and rewatch and things like that. So again, that's it for me and my yap session. I love you guys, but God loves you more. Bye.